The Commercial Driver Medical Certification Exam. Hello, my name is Dr. Tim Hendricks, and I'd like to welcome you to join me in a review of the recent changes to the federal regulations. The purpose of this brief video is to serve as a supplement to your original CDME training, updating you on the new exam form and certificate and the processes for reporting exams to the National Registry. The final rule was published by the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration in April of 2015. Although it was to take effect December 22nd of 2015, delays in the initial release of the electronic version of the form caused the final date for implementation to be pushed back by 120 days. By April 20th of 2016, all driver medical exams must be completed using the new Medical Examination Reporting Form and the new Medical Examiner Certificate. By now, you have undoubtedly become quite familiar with the previous version of the medical exam form and wallet size certificate. The redesigned Medical Examination Report Form and Medical Examiner Certificate shown on the right are the only versions that will be accepted after April 20th of 2016. In addition to these new forms, after April 20th of 2016, medical examiners must continue to provide a paper copy of the Medical Examiner Certificate to the driver. In 2018, after the second phase of certification integration has occurred, the results of the Medical Exam Certificate will be electronically transferred from FMCSA to each state's driver's licensing agency, thereby eliminating the need for the driver to carry the paper certificate. The two stages of certification integration are illustrated here. Starting on April 20th of 2016, the medical examiner will upload the results of the medical certification determination to the National Registry at the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration and also give the driver the paper version of the medical examiner certificate. The driver will then submit the medical examiner certificate to his state driver's licensing agency, and although the results of the exam will be electronically linked to the commercial driver license at the state driver's licensing agency, the driver must continue to carry the paper version of the medical examination certificate. Starting in 2018, the medical examiner will only need to upload the results of the certification determination to the National Registry by midnight of the next day after the exam. Driver results will be transmitted electronically to the state driver's licensing agency and attached to the driver's CDL. The final rule also includes the creation of two additional certification categories: certification pending and incomplete exam. These new categories will address the potential gaps that could occur when reporting driver certification determinations. With the implementation of the new regulations, there are 5 possible certification determinations. Meet standards qualifies for a 2-year certificate. Meet standards but periodic monitoring required. Certification pending, which expires in 45 days. Does not meet standards. And incomplete exam. Making a certification decision is fairly straightforward if the driver meets all the physical qualifications. The medical examiner indicates that the driver meets standards and certifies the driver for 2 years. But if the driver has a medical condition that does not presently impact their ability to safely operate a commercial motor vehicle, but is a condition that is at risk of progression or complications, the medical examiner can select meet standards but periodic monitoring required. Remember that the driver must meet all physical qualifications and be considered safe to drive at that time. The decision to use certification pending can be used when the medical examiner requires more information before making a certification decision. This is equivalent to placing the exam on hold until the driver returns with medical records, specialist evaluations, or additional testing. But the exam will become invalid if not completed within 45 days. While on certification pending, the driver cannot drive a commercial motor vehicle until final certification determination has been made by the medical examiner, Although drivers that have a current valid medical certificate can continue to drive a commercial vehicle as long as that certificate has not yet expired. And lastly, the incomplete exam is used if the driver leaves before the exam has been completed. So what exactly are your certification choices during the follow-up exam when a driver returns after one or more of these limited certifications? Let's take a look at the first instance of meet standards but periodic monitoring required. When the driver returns before the expiration of their limited certification, he or she will need a new head-to-toe exam. According to the new regulations, you cannot amend a previous certifying exam. Now that's as opposed to certification pending status, when the medical examiner can only amend this type of exam that had previously been placed in certification pending status. The expiration date is calculated from the date the final certification decision has been made. If a driver returns after an incomplete exam, the certification exam resumes from the beginning since the original exam is invalid. While the eventual electronic integration of certification results will reduce the potential for fraud, it is also expected that the new certification categories, like the incomplete exam, will prevent doctor shopping when a driver does not agree with a medical examiner's finding. The new rule regarding certification integration does not include changes to the physical qualifications as quoted in 49 CFR 391.41 or previously published medical guidance. In addition, you will find that non-regulatory guidance has been deleted from the new medical exam report form. For example, the table containing blood pressure guidance has been deleted from the new exam form because this information is advisory in nature and not regulatory. Recall from your prior CDME training that regulations or standards are laws that must be followed, for instance 49 CFR 391.41, and medical guidance or advisory is best practice, and reasons for deviation from guidance should be documented in the medical exam report form. In the next section, we will review the significant changes to the medical exam report form and medical certificate. Page 1 of the medical exam report form, or the MER, now allows the driver to indicate whether they hold a commercial learner permit or commercial driver license, addressing the problem of student drivers who have not yet obtained their commercial driver's license. Please note that within the driver's personal information, the medical examiner should indicate the manner in which the driver's ID was verified, for example by photo IDs such as a driver's license or passport. In addition, the driver is now asked, has your medical certificate ever been denied or issued for less than 2 years? This question replaces the need on the previous exam form for the driver to indicate whether it was a new certification, recertification, or a follow-up exam. On page 2, the driver must answer all health history questions. Please note that there are 7 new questions, including specific questions regarding tobacco, drug, and alcohol use. In addition to yes and no responses, the driver can now answer not sure. As a medical examiner reviewing the driver's responses, a not sure response should prompt further questioning or request of medical records or even a specialist evaluation if clarification is needed. On page 3 of the examination, the first half of the form is dedicated to testing. You will notice the optometrist, ophthalmologist signature line has been deleted and replaced by yes or no questions. Has the driver been referred to an ophthalmologist or optometrist, and has the medical examiner received documentation from the ophthalmologist or optometrist? The medical examiner will then make the final certification decision after reviewing the eye specialist evaluation and opinions. Although hearing requirements haven't changed, please note the potentially confusing question regarding check if hearing aid used for test right, left, or neither. It is assumed that neither should be checked for all drivers that do not use a hearing aid. The bottom half of page 3 includes the physical examination. New exam areas included on this form include skin and gait. The Federal Driver Certification Determination is found on page 4 of the Medical Exam Report form. If a driver is qualified using a state variance, you should use the separate intrastate driver determination on page 5. There are 5 possible categories for certification. First, does not meet medical standards. Meets medical standards and qualifies for a 2-year certificate. Meet standards but periodic monitoring required. Determination pending, and incomplete exam. In spite of the odd placement of the categories underneath the limited time certification, you should check the appropriate modifying categories such as wearing corrective lenses, whether certifying for a limited time or for 2 years. When selecting determination pending, you should indicate when the driver needs to return for follow-up. If the exam is not amended within 45 days, the exam is invalid and the driver will have to start all over again. Once the driver returns with the requested evaluation or records, the certificate is amended by checking Report Amended, listing the reason, and then checking the final certification determination. Don't forget to sign and date when the report has been amended. And lastly, the expiration date at the bottom right corner of the page is the expiration date of the driver's certificate, not the date of expiration of the medical examiner certification with the National Registry. You should only use the state medical examiner determination on page 5 if the driver qualifies as a commercial driver due to a state-specific variance. Although these variances can vary from state to state, common examples include variances for diabetes and monocular vision. Since the driver only qualifies for a commercial driver license within their state, there is no need to report the results of the exam to the National Registry, but the driver will still need the completed medical examiner certificate for his or her state's driver's licensing agency or their employer.